I sucked in a freezing lungful of toxic air, my joints stiff and my brain sluggish after countless millennia of artificial cryo coma. The ship had fucked up. We woke up far too early, and we were all going to die for it. My fellow frozen pioneers and I woke in sarcophagi of wires that kept us trapped like a fly in a spider's web. Except our pods no longer gave life and safety. The cryopods struggled even to open, their latches grinding open with an ear-piercing screech that left my head ringing. When I finally managed to stumble free from the icy clutches of my coffin-like container, a wave of nausea hit like a punch from 0G, doubling me over until bitter stomach acid scorched my throat. The emergency lights on the Earth colony ship Hyperion flashed a sickly red, accentuating the chaos on board this massive cryo-ark we called home. Bodies, stiff with cryo-frost, fell from pods all around me in an unceremonious heap of tangled limbs. The lucky ones coughed the cryo-gunk from their necrotic lungs, the unlucky ones didn't. The robotic voice, broken and stuttering, crackled across the failing PA system. Earth colony ship, Hyperion systems critical fail, life support %, MPT on fuel, and, cryo, began prima after AI crash. No, nets in range, location unknown. As my crewmates and I stared in horror at one another, the realization slowly sinking in amidst the anarchy, one thing was clear. Humanity's salvation had turned into a 500,000-year slumber party from hell. The 13 survivors, all experts in their respective fields, rushed to salvage what they could from the crippled ark. Ryan, the mission commander, barked orders. "Get that power restored now. We need propulsion online ASAP." Lisa, the chief engineer, worked frantically at a sparking console. Transferring reserve power to engines and life support. Cryo systems totally shot. "Worry about that later," Ryan yelled. "Just keep us breathing." The ship groaned as ancient reactor coils warmed up for the first time in eons. A cheer erupted as a faint rumble of power coursed through the hull. But their elation was short-lived. The helmsman Akira called out from the cockpit. "We've got a lock on the nearest star. Only a few light years. Could be our ticket out of this mess." Ryan nodded. "Set a course and spool up the Alcubierre drive. Let's get the hell out of here before this bucket of bolts gives out on us." But before they could jump, a klaxon blared from the sensor station. Talia, the science officer, paled as she studied the readings. "Sir, we've got company. Unknown vessel approaching off the port bow." The bridge fell silent. First contact, out here in the void between galaxies. Ryan knew it would either be their salvation or their doom. He toggled the comms. "This is Earth colony ship Hyperion requesting assistance. We are in distress. Repeat, this is Earth colony ship Hyperion requesting immediate assistance." "Static." "No response on any frequency," Mikhail, the comms officer, reported. The alien ship loomed closer on the view screen, a strange disc-shaped craft of exotic design. Ryan's heart pounded in his ears. Sweat beaded on his brow despite the chill. "But what the hell?" Talia gasped. "They've locked weapons on us." Before Ryan could react, the ship shuddered violently as if gripped by an invisible fist. Conduits blew out in showers of sparks. Crewmen were thrown from their seats. The lights flickered and dimmed. "Report!" Ryan shouted over the din of alarms and creaking bulkheads. Lisa pulled herself up on the railing, a trickle of blood running down her face. "They've latched onto us with some kind of magnetic grapple. It's draining our power. Engines are offline." Ryan cursed under his breath. The Alcubierre drive powered down with an ominous descending whine, dead in space, helpless. The alien ship filled the screen now, blotting out the stars. The entire hull of the Hyperion groaned as the alien tractor beam latched onto its damaged exterior. Ryan gripped the arms of his command chair, his knuckles turning white as he felt the ship being forcibly dragged towards the massive dreadnought. He tried not to dwell on the rows upon rows of gun batteries and missile tubes, studying the alien ship's surface like scales on some great beast. With a shuddering jolt, the Hyperion came to rest inside the cavernous docking bay of the alien vessel. The colonists watched the view screen anxiously as atmosphere was pumped in, the bay filling with a swirling mist. Gravity returned with a lurch, loose objects clattering to the deck. Ryan stood, his legs unsteady. He turned to his ragtag crew, trying to project an air of calm he didn't feel. "All right, people, listen up. We don't know what we're dealing with here. Could be friendly, could be hostile. Either way, we're in no shape for a fight. Arm yourselves with whatever you can find and get ready to repel boarders if it comes to that." There was a mad scramble as the colonists grabbed impromptu weapons, wrenches, pipes, fire extinguishers. Ryan pulled an emergency hardsuit from a locker and climbed into it, the servos whining as they powered up. At least it would offer some protection from the unknown. The outer airlock door shuddered, then slowly began to open, the mechanism clearly being forced from the outside. Ryan and the others leveled their makeshift weapons at the widening gap, ready for anything. But nothing could have prepared them for what emerged. A dozen small grey-skinned creatures, no taller than a meter, waddled into the airlock on stubby legs. They wore elaborate environment suits festooned with blinking lights and tubes. Their large, bulbous heads swiveled this way and that, taking in the human crew with oversized black eyes. The creatures seemed to be in the midst of a heated argument, their high-pitched voices rising and falling in squeaky crescendos. They gesticulated wildly with thin, four-fingered hands. Ryan slowly lowered his weapon, blinking in confusion. His suit's translation software struggled to parse the alien language, catching only snippets here and there. He stepped forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "Hello there. I'm Commander Ryan Matheson of the Earth colony ship Hyperion. We mean you no harm. Our ship is damaged and we need assistance." The aliens stopped their bickering and turned to regard Ryan, head crests flaring with what might have been surprise. One of them, slightly taller than the rest with an air of authority, stepped forward. It spoke slowly, as if to a child. "You are human, yes?" it asked in halting, heavily accented English. "Impossible. Humans. Extinct. Many cycles ago." Ryan frowned. Extinct? Just how long had they been in cryo? "I assure you we're quite alive. We just woke up from suspended animation. Our ship malfunctioned and our AI crashed. We have wounded who need medical attention. Can you help us?" The leader drew itself up to its full, unimpressive height. "I am Vega, commander of the Athorian science vessel Gnosis. By Galactic Salvage Code 3.1.159, I hereby claim this derelict and all contents, including you, specimens, for study." Ryan bristled at being called a specimen. "Now wait just a damn minute. We're not some animals to be caged and prodded. We're sentient beings." Vega's lipless mouth curled in what might have been a sneer. "Irrelevant. You are adrift in Ithorian space. You will surrender yourselves and your ship, or face consequences." The other aliens raised stubby arms, and Ryan saw they were holding small cylindrical devices that glowed with an eerie blue light. His suit's HUD lit up with radiation warnings, some kind of directed energy weapons. Outgunned and outmatched, Ryan saw no choice. He couldn't risk his crew in a hopeless fight. Slowly, he unholstered his pistol and placed it on the deck, motioning for the others to do the same with their weapons. Okay, you win. We surrender." Vega nodded, smug satisfaction radiating from his diminutive form. He barked orders to his crew in their squeaky language, and the aliens advanced, covering the humans with their weapons. As Ryan and the others were herded roughly out of the airlock into the waiting alien ship, he couldn't shake a feeling of foreboding. What did these Ithorians have in store for them? Dissection? Experimentation? Slavery? He shuddered to think. But one thing was certain. They were now prisoners of a galaxy that had left humanity behind eons ago. Their fates were no longer their own. Ryan's face turned red with rage. "Like hell we'll submit to you. We're the last free humans left, and we won't be your damn lab rats." Vega let out a condescending chuckle, his black eyes glittering with amusement. "Foolish primate, there have been no free humans for over 200,000 of your years. After your kind spread across the galaxy like a plague, your empire imploded almost overnight, some great calamity of your own making. The Ithorian commander paced back and forth, clearly relishing the chance to lecture his captives. All that remains of your once mighty civilization are crumbling ruins and garbled data fragments. We Ithorians and the other ascendant races picked your bones clean, claiming your worlds and tech for ourselves. He gestured dismissively to his crew. Oh, some of you survived the fall, but those were quickly enslaved. Quite useful for menial labor and entertainment. A few genetic tweaks and you became quite servile, weak and dull-witted. A fitting fate for such an arrogant species. Ryan looked at the diminutive grey figures, a knot of revulsion twisting in his gut as Vega's words sank in. These pathetic creatures. They were humans, or what was left of the human race, twisted and subjugated, a mockery of what they had once been. His hands clenched into fists, despair and rage warring within him. Not only had humanity fallen, but its very memory had been erased, its legacy ground to dust. "No, I don't believe it," Ryan whispered hoarsely. "Believe what you like, it changes nothing. You and your crew will surrender for study and integration. Your ship and its technology are now property of the Ithorian technocracy." Vega's gloating sparked something deep within Ryan. A defiant fire, an unquenchable human spirit that refused to submit, to bend the knee, even in the face of utter hopelessness. If this was to be humanity's end, let it be an end worthy of remembrance. He opened a private comm channel to his crew. "Matheson to all points. Seal your suits and ready the cyclic on my mark. If we're going down, we're taking these squat bastards with us." Confused but determined acknowledgements lit up his HUD as the crew scrambled to carry out his orders. Ryan turned back to Vega, his helmeted face grim. "I'm only going to say this once, you son of a bitch. We'll never be your slaves. We'd rather die on our feet than live a moment as something less than human." Vega's eyes narrowed. "Then die you shall, primate." The Ithorians raised their weapons, but Ryan was already moving. "Mark." He slammed his fist on the emergency airlock release. The explosive bolts driving the inner hatch opened to the vacuum of space. Atmosphere exploded outward in a gale force wind, dragging screaming Ithorians out into the void. Ryan Mag locked his boots to the deck, anchoring himself as his crew did the same. They opened up with their suit thrusters, careening through the decompressing airlock, bowling over the remaining aliens with bone-crushing force. The last thing Ryan saw as he hurtled into the cavernous docking bay was Vega's hate-filled eyes as the commander was swept out into the pitiless vacuum, his suit already bloating and rupturing in the absolute zero cold. Then the outer airlock door slammed shut with a resounding clang, leaving Ryan and his crew drifting in the null-gravity expanse of the alien hangar, surrounded by strange ships and frozen Ithorian corpses. "Crew, sound off," Ryan barked over the comm, praying he hadn't just consigned them all to a slower death. One by one his people checked in, shaken, terrified, but alive and unbroken. Ryan breathed a shuddering sigh of relief. They had survived, but for how much longer? He forced the dark thoughts aside. One crisis at a time. They were still here, still fighting, and as long as one human drew breath, there was hope. He gathered his crew with a terse order, mag-locking together in a rough circle. 13 pairs of eyes stared at him through battered faceplates, awaiting orders, guidance, salvation. Ryan swallowed hard. He didn't have all the answers. He wasn't even sure if there was a way out of this nightmare, but by God, he would get his people home or die trying. The legacy of the human race rested on their shoulders, and Ryan would be damned if he let it end here, a footnote in some alien database. This was just the beginning. Humanity's last stand started now. But the Ithorians' own sealed suits protected them from the breach, the swirling atmosphere and debris merely glancing off their reinforced exoskeletons. With casual precision, they drew compact energy pistols from their belts and took aim at the rebellious humans. Bolts of crackling blue energy lanced out, finding their marks with unerring accuracy. Ryan convulsed as the stun blast struck him square in the chest, his muscles seizing up in agonizing paralysis. His crew fared no better, their cries of pain and defiance abruptly silenced as they crumpled to the deck, nerves overwhelmed by the neural shock. Darkness took him then, a yawning void that swallowed his consciousness whole. Ryan woke with a shuddering gasp, his eyes flying open to a blinding white light. He tried to move, to raise a hand to shield his face, but found himself utterly immobilized. His wrists and ankles were clamped tight in unyielding restraints, his body stripped of his hard suit and clad only in a thin medical gown. As his vision cleared, he took in his surroundings with growing dread. He was strapped to an operating table, in what could only be the Ithorian ship's medical bay, banks of alien machines crowding the sterile space, their function as opaque as their creator's intentions. A shadow fell across him, and Ryan strained against his bonds, craning his neck to see his captor. Vega loomed over the helpless human, his lipless mouth stretched in a grotesque approximation of a smirk, those fathomless black eyes glittering with a mixture of fascination and contempt. "Awake so soon?" The Ithorian commander's voice was mocking, almost playful. "Your species' capacity for recovery continues to astound. But then you always were a resilient bunch. Pity that same tenacity led to your downfall." Ryan glared up at the diminutive alien, seething with impotent rage. "Spare me the history lesson, you squat little toad. Where's my crew?" Vega tutted, waving a long grey finger in admonishment. "Such fire, such spirit. I can see why your kind once ruled the stars, but that defiance, while admirable, is ultimately futile. You and your crew belong to the Ithorian technocracy now, Commander, the last pure strain of humanity ripe for the dissecting." Ryan thrashed against the restraints, synthetic fibers biting into his flesh. "Dissecting? No, we're people, not lab animals for you to cut apart. We'd sooner die than be your specimens." But Vega only chuckled darkly, unmoved by the human's desperate bravado. He tapped a command into the holographic console floating at his fingertips, and Ryan felt a sudden, wrenching pressure behind his eyes, an alien presence worming its way into his mind. "Die? Oh no, that would be far too wasteful. You see, while you slept, we took the liberty of implanting you and your crew with our latest neuro-control devices. Marvelous little things, wouldn't you agree? At the touch of a button, we can override your pesky free will, transforming you into obedient automata, eager to serve the technocracy's every whim." To Ryan's horror, a door at the far end of the medical bay slid open and his crew shambled in, their faces slack and eyes glazed, all signs of resistance drained away. They moved with eerie synchronicity, lining up beside empty operating tables where teams of Ithorian scientists waited with scalpels and bone saws poised. Ryan fought the insidious tendrils of the implant with every fiber of his being, feeling the device suppress his motor control, sapping his strength and volition. But he would not surrender, not while a single breath remained in his body. Mustering a final titanic effort, he wrenched command of his vocal cords and unleashed a howl of primal fury, spitting his defiance into Vega's smug face. "We'll never be your slaves. Never. Even if it takes 500,000 years, humanity will rise again and wipe your kind from the face of the galaxy. I swear it." Vega's only response was a contemptuous snort. He nodded to one of the waiting scientists who stepped forward, injector in hand. Ryan felt the icy kiss of sedatives flooding his veins, dragging him down into a chemical oblivion. The last thing he saw before the darkness claimed him was Vega's mocking visage, those pitiless black eyes boring into his very soul. And his final thought as the void swallowed him was a desperate, unspoken prayer cast into the uncaring cosmos. The Hyperion's black box, the record of all they'd seen and suffered, ejected by Mikhail in a final act of defiance amid the chaos of the alien assault. It streaked across the stars even now, carrying humanity's legacy in its memory banks. A message in a bottle, winding its way through the infinite dark, seeking the distant descendants of Earth. Ryan's plea that they might learn from the mistakes of the past and forge a kinder, wiser future among the stars. A future where humanity would never again bend the knee to alien tyrants, where they would stand tall and free beneath alien suns on 1,000 worlds. Even if it took another 500,000 years, the children of Earth would rise from the ashes of their fall and reclaim their birthright. And may the gods have mercy on those who stood in their way. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.